You can't be a healthcare marketer without hearing the words journey maps. But when I hear those words, what I think about are patient journeys as well as buyer journeys. What I don't think about is something called a campaign journey map, but that is actually the topic of this video. I'm excited because I'm about to sit down with my friend Lorraine McMeekin from Studio North. Lorraine recently presented on the topic of campaign journey maps, and she explained what they are, how they're useful, and why marketers should really think about doing them to track and plan for their campaigns. So I was excited to sit down with her to find out more about her session and about this very interesting topic. Hello and welcome to Swaay.Health, where we explore the latest trends and interesting stories from the brightest minds in healthcare marketing. I'm Colin Hung, and I hope you enjoy this interview. Lorraine, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Colin. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, it's nice to have you on the program finally. I wish we were doing this in person, but the next one, I promise we'll do this live.
Yes, it's the mad rush the week before the holidays, so it's a busy week.
So, Lorraine, you and I obviously we know each other. We've known each other for a long time, but for the benefit of those listening and watching, can you tell me a little bit about your role and your organization?
For sure, for sure. My name is Lorraine McMeekin, and I am a senior director at StudioNorth. I'm the senior director of healthcare marketing strategy. And StudioNorth is a full service boutique agency. We're headquartered in North Chicago, Illinois, but we also have team members sort of spreading across the US and now into Canada. And we focus on clients that really represent sort of the enterprise and SMB level technology, healthcare technology. And so my team really focuses on our healthcare clients.
Nice. We love our friends from Studio North. Lorraine, you were one of the presenters at our Toronto Swaay.Health event. Thank you so much for being a presenter. And you presented a pretty fascinating session around doing a campaign journey map. Now,
Mhm.
we've done a lot of journey mapping around here. We talked a lot about journey maps, but usually that's around like a patient map or like a prospect map. I have not heard too much about a campaign journey map. Can you describe what that is and why it's so important?
Sure. So a campaign journey map, we all know sort of what the buyer's journey looks like. And a campaign journey map is really intended to sort of, frame the campaign that you're working on around the particular stages of the buyer journey that the campaign is meant to drive people either through or towards. So when you do a campaign journey map, it really takes all of the tactics that you're going to be using and sort of maps them out so that you can see how your audience is going to flow through your campaign. It's really also an opportunity to identify any gaps that you may have missed in your planning process. There's nothing worse than getting to the point of executing on a campaign and realizing that, you've maybe forgotten to connect one tactic to another tactic and whatnot. So this is really a good way to, as you're going through your campaign planning, understand how the campaign flows, how your audience is going to interact with it, and then also understand, how that dovetails or leads into maybe a subsequent campaign or carries the audience from a previous campaign as well.
So Lorraine, what are some of the elements of a good campaign journey map then? I mean, you've mentioned a few here. It sounds like, you have your buyers, your audience, the
Mhm.
obviously the elements of the campaign, but what are some of the elements that go into that map?
Sure. So as you're doing your planning, you're obviously going to, define your objectives for your campaign. You're going to define your personas that you're speaking to, what your sort of strategic approach is going to be. And then once you've got those in place, all of your stakeholders have bought into sort of those high level planning elements. You want to start thinking about the tactics that you're going to incorporate into your campaign. And so once you understand your tactics, and this isn't just, your ebooks or your webinars and whatnot, this is also all of the activation pieces. So if you're doing a paid social campaign or a PPC campaign, or you're going to sort of, incorporate some sort of nurture email journey, you're going to sort of take those tactics and then apply them in a bit of a map sort of format. We often structure ours based on sort of the buyer stage will sort of like lead the structure of the map. We put our triggers and our activation elements and sort of show how all of those different pieces flow together. And so that really helps you sort of see the campaign in its sort of full entirety. It's also a really good snapshot view so that when you're presenting your campaign to your different stakeholders in sales and marketing and whatnot, it's a really good sort of one-page view of what the campaign is going to look like. Very easy for people to understand. It's very visual. It also helps when you get into the process of defining what your KPIs are and how you're going to measure the impact of the campaign, because you can kind of see what are the different elements that are actually measurable. How many forms were completed? How many people clicked on your landing pages? How many emails were opened? So it really helps also to help to define what those KPIs are going to be once you get to that planning stage and you've got buy-in from everybody.
I just want to zero in on something you said there.
Mhm.
You mentioned sales, and which I'm assuming is a very important stakeholder in the campaign journey
Mhm.
creation. But in your opinion, Lorraine, who needs to be involved in the creation of these campaign journey maps?
Well, I think obviously that whoever is owning the campaign creation needs to really sort of own and drive the creation of the journey map. So, that may be your agency, that may be, a demand team if your marketing team is structured that way, or a demand person. If it's an awareness campaign, it may be sort of more of a Marcom focus. So it really depends on who's driving the campaign. And then, as you're building your campaign journey map out and your campaign plan out, you're going to be looping in the different stakeholders that have to either participate in the campaign. So, for example, if you have a marketing ops team or a marketing ops person who would be helping with anything that gets set up in your marketing automation platform, you would want them to sort of have visibility and buy-in, because they may see some issues with the campaign flow depending on how things are set up. You would want maybe, again, your Marcom team or your product marketing team to look at it, make sure that, that if they have an interest in the audience you're speaking to, they've had a chance to provide input. Obviously, sales, if it's a sales, a lead gen or, a demand gen type of campaign, they're going to have a voice. I would say in terms of who needs to approve it, whatever, your marketing leadership, if they're approving the overall campaign. Again, it's a really good visual for, walking those stakeholder groups through a campaign. It can help, manage conversations around budget. For example, if you've got a paid media component, you can really talk about how, the budget will be spent, where people will be driving to, what the actions are that would be taken once a person is driven to, say, a landing page. Ideally, we want to convert these people and get them to fill out a form. So it's a really good, one-page view of, the campaign that helps really facilitate those conversations and then keeps everyone aligned. There's no surprises. People will understand upfront how the campaign is going to flow. People will understand what you're going to be measuring and, how they can expect people to sort of to flow through that campaign as well.
Do these journey maps change as the campaign rolls out, or are they pretty much static from the time that they're set? I mean, one half of me says if you did your planning right, you shouldn't really have a lot of variation. On
Yeah.
the other hand, like assumptions are made, and then those assumptions may turn out to be wrong, and you may have to adjust. Do you find, just in your experience, do they tend to be pretty static, or do they tend to be much more living documents, these journey maps?
I think it really depends on the campaign, the duration of the campaign. Sometimes campaigns can be very short and the journey is actually a very small journey. So in those cases, I wouldn't say they would change drastically. We often start with our clients doing campaign journey maps at the very early part of planning. That's one of the first elements we start to plan and walk people through. So I would say definitely they're living and breathing up until the point of execution, in the sense that, you may add another element, you may add another asset, you may add another channel to drive people through the campaign and whatnot. So the maps would be updated to reflect those changes. And then, once a campaign is in motion, often the changes are really optimizing the pieces that you already have in place. And those aren't really reflected or captured on the campaign journey map. But, as you say, surprises can happen. And, perhaps you need to rethink a flow, or you need to add another intermediary touch point between something. So I would say, it's definitely possible that they could evolve and change as the campaign goes on. And again, if it's a longer campaign, like running for a full quarter, running for 6 months, you may evolve it as the campaign is in market as well. So
And it does sound like these maps help to ground the team, right? I mean, you mentioned
yeah.
like it's got the KPIs in there, it's got all the different touch points and the elements all right there in a single document that you can refer to. And then I'm also assuming that after you've put all that information in there, these documents can, or these maps, sorry, can become quite a resource when
Mhm.
you're designing your next set of campaigns, right? You can go back and look at these and kind of say like, did this work? Was this effective? And because
Yeah.
let's be honest, institutional memory is pretty short, right? When it comes to marketing. So having having these maps may help with that. So you remember, oh yeah, when we ran this 2 years ago, here's some of
Mhm.
the things that did or didn't happen, and maybe I can design around that this time.
Yeah, I think they're really good sort of retrospective documents. Even when we do, campaign reporting for a client, we'll incorporate the journey map as part of those reports, so they can kind of go back, and if there's any question about, well, why would they go from, add X to point Y, we can go back and say, well, this was kind of, articulated on the journey map. It was how we intended to drive people through the campaign. And then, when you think about organizations, you're right, institutional knowledge tends to be short, especially if there's turnover and whatnot. So I think having those journey maps is, as legacy documents, are good things for people to refer back to, particularly if you have campaigns that you do over and over again, year over year. If you have an event that you do event marketing for, it's good to have that journey and what worked, what didn't work. Look at the journey against the performance of the campaign and make the adjustments for the next campaign.
So, Lorraine, are you able to share maybe an example from a client of yours that has used these maps effectively and what difference it made in their campaigns?
For sure. We have one particular client that I spoke to in the presentation. They're an advanced primary care provider. And every year, their main sort of opportunity to acquire new patients is during the annual enrollment period, which just ended on December 7th. And then again, sort of, the open enrollment period that starts in January. We do a lot of journey mapping with them for their different campaigns. They target patients, prospective patients, as well as insurance brokers who may be selling plans that include their organization. These are relatively short journeys, but for their organization and the type of organization they are, it really helps them to have these visual resources that they can take to their leadership teams and say, this is the campaign plan. Here's how people are going to engage with the campaign. It's helped us, we, for their broker campaign this year, one of their goals was, broker contact acquisition, because they're trying to build their broker database.
Right.
And when we did the journey map, we had a landing page, we had a form, but we realized we didn't have a thank you page afterwards. So it exposed a small gap that we were able to correct relatively quickly and whatnot, but it hadn't been something as we were planning initially that we thought about. And so that helped us as a team, because we like to work with our clients as an extension of their marketing team. It helped us close that gap before anything hit the market, and made sure that the the brokers had a very seamless experience. And so, because of that, we were also able to think through what that thank you page experience was, and we created it sort of as a dynamic landing page, so that depending on what region they were in, they would see also who their regional broker contact was. They would see upcoming events in that area where they could get in front of prospective patients and whatnot. So it really also helped to enhance that experience for brokers. So.
I got to ask this question because I'm certain that people in the audience may have it, but Lorraine, how long does it take to make one of these maps? Like, is this sort of like a week long exercise? Like, what am I in for if I decide I want to do one of these?
Um, some of it really depends on how good you are with. I usually do them in a PowerPoint on a PowerPoint slide. So some of it really depends on how good you are with PowerPoint. It can take anywhere from a few hours to, several days, depending on, who you're circulating it, who's weighing in on it, who's contributing it. But I think, when you think about marketing planning, it's one of those things that is such a valuable asset. And I know that as marketers, especially at this time of year, we often race through a lot of our campaign planning and really just are like, okay, what do I have? What am I going to put in market? And sort of jump the gun. And then we've all probably had experiences where we put something in market and it, hasn't worked out quite the way we've intended it to. So we like to say, like, slow down to speed up and take the time to do this really important planning up front, and work through a journey map with your stakeholders. You can do it it can be done on a whiteboard, it can be done in a PowerPoint slide, in a slide share and whatnot. And it's really a great opportunity to just kind of, see what you're working with. And especially because I know in a lot of companies, you're using assets you already have to an extent to make the most of the investment you've made in those assets. So this will help you uncover where, you could use a shorter form piece of content, or you could, use another set of emails and whatnot. So I think it's worthwhile taking the time to slow down, and it will help your campaigns really run a lot more smoothly.
Great advice, Lorraine. Great advice. So you've shared a lot of great information today. Where can people go to find out more information about Studio North?
Sure. You can always follow us on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook, at StudioNorth. And then our website is studionorth.com. And we've got a lot of great information, a lot of great blog posts and whatnot that your readers can also enjoy.
Awesome. Lorraine, thank you so much for all the great information you shared with us today.
No
Appreciate you being
problem.
on the program.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Hey, I want to thank Lorraine for being on the program with me today and for sharing all that great information about campaign journey maps. I got to be honest, I wasn't really convinced until I heard about what campaign journey maps can really do for an organization in terms of institutional knowledge and the fact that it can keep a campaign grounded, that I really became convinced that, hey, this is a really good thing for marketers to do. So I want to thank Lorraine for coming on camera with me here today and for giving us all that fantastic tips and strategies related to campaign journey maps. And hey, if you enjoyed this interview as much as I did, please like and subscribe. Also, head on over to Swaay.Health, that's Swaay with two A's, .health, where you can find more great content like this. I'm Colin Hung. Thanks for being here, and I'll catch you on the next video.